In the year 2024, Philadelphia has become a city in ruins, filled with abandoned buildings and fires in the streets, with not a single survivor in sight. In 1988, also in Philadelphia, a mysterious hooded figure moves through the city. Meanwhile, a pianist, a cook, and a bus driver go through their nightly routine, until suddenly they begin to bleed from every orifice and die at the exact same time. The bus crashes, and a book falls to the ground, revealing that the driver had been reading American Patriot. Police officer Thomas prepares for his shift, but first cooks a quick breakfast for his pregnant wife, Jean. He then meets his partner, Maddox, and together they go to inspect the bus crash, where Holt, the chief of detectives and Thomas's brother-in-law, is already working. As they examine the body, they discover pieces of brain scattered on the ground and 3 strange puncture marks on the driver's neck. Later, they find the same pattern in the pianist and the cook, fragments of brain and 3 identical wounds. Soon after, the medical examiner explains that the marks are injections so deep they reach the spinal column, yet no one in the lab can identify the poisonous substance used. After this, Thomas and Maddox go out to eat, and Thomas takes the chance to buy a bracelet for Jean. Their meal is interrupted when they receive a call. A woman with the same wounds has been found alive. They rush to the club where the victim is, and Holt arrives as well to question her. The woman manages to say that she was attacked by a black woman wearing a blue hoodie with a bloodied hand, but she dies moments later in the same way as the others. The police begin questioning every black woman they find, and thanks to witnesses they manage to create a composite sketch. Soon they locate the area where the suspect was last seen. Thomas and Maddox run into her by chance. Her name is Raya. The woman flees into the subway. The officers chase her, but at that exact moment the radio reports that Jean is in labor. During the pursuit, Thomas finds a strange futuristic device, empty, similar to the one used for the injections. Maddox runs ahead, but Raya easily defeats him, breaks his leg, and escapes. The noise leads Thomas to them, and he points his weapon at Raya, but freezes when she begins to speak. Raya knows his name, congratulates him on his future daughter, and mysteriously tells him, this is where it happens. She also apologizes for Maddox, assuring that she never meant to hurt him. Thomas tries to arrest her, but Raya overpowers him and handcuffs him to a bench. Then Thomas remembers he still has the futuristic weapon and uses it against her. Raya falls backward and is killed by an oncoming train. For Thomas, the case is closed. As he exits, an officer mentions his wife, and Thomas rushes to the hospital, where another policeman informs him that Raya had no fingerprints or identification, only some strange keys, and that they also found a bullet from a service weapon in her hand, even though no officer had fired. A nurse leads him to Jean, who is suffering a hemorrhage during labor. Thomas places the bracelet he bought onto her wrist but cannot comfort her. Shortly after, the doctors deliver the devastating news. The baby is healthy, but Jean has died. 9 years later, in 1997, Thomas is now a detective and spends his day off celebrating his daughter Amy's birthday. Since she was a baby, she has worn her mother's bracelet, and every year Thomas gives her a new charm. They first visit Jean's grave, where Thomas is surprised to see that someone had already left flowers. His plan was to go to the zoo, but he receives an urgent call. He leaves Amy with another officer and heads to the crime scene, where Maddox is also present, now limping from the old injury. The body shows the same 3 puncture marks and the same unknown poison, and it also happens to be the anniversary of the first murders. The victim turns out to be a political science professor. Holt, now a lieutenant, arrives as well and insists he was not the one who left flowers at Jean's grave. When they review the security cameras, they find a person wearing the same hoodie as Raya. Although the police believe it is a copycat, Thomas is not convinced. He decides to drag Amy to the station and reopen the case. They analyze the keys found years earlier and discover they belong to an aircraft manufactured in 1996, something impossible since they were recovered in 1988. Only one nearby airfield has that model of plane, so Thomas goes to investigate, leaving Amy under police custody. On the way, he crosses paths with Dr. Rao, who mentions that the murders coincide with a phenomenon called the blood moon, linked to theories of time travel, though neither Thomas nor Maddox take him seriously. When Thomas arrives at the airfield, he notices lights inside a closed hangar. The attendant behaves suspiciously, and Thomas realizes he is likely being threatened. He is right. Raya suddenly appears, alive and without having aged a single day. She disarms him and forces the attendant to tie him up, but Thomas manages to dial his phone so Maddox can hear everything. Raya asks for the keys to a plane, and when the attendant tries to resist, she overpowers him. At that moment, Maddox arrives unexpectedly, and Raya, startled, accidentally shoots him, killing him. This explains the apology she had given Thomas 9 years earlier. With the police closing in, Raya takes Thomas onto a plane. During the flight, he loses consciousness and dreams of Jean. He wakes when Raya shakes him and asks him to stop chasing her, insisting she is trying to save lives. She explains that she can return every 9 years when the moon aligns, but refuses to give more details. Thomas insists on stopping her, so Raya pushes him out of the plane, and he falls into the water. He swims to shore and finds the crashed plane, but there is no trace of Raya. The next day, Holt reprimands him, but Thomas insists they will never find the body because she is a time traveler. 9 years later, in 2006, Thomas is no longer a police officer. He has become so obsessed with the case that he now works as a private investigator. He lives out of his car, listening to police radio, and has dedicated himself to studying the moon and its energies, as well as searching for Rao, who has disappeared. He reopens the case of Harold Nowak, a man whose death had been attributed to drugs, and discovers the same 3 puncture marks on his skeleton. The widow tells him that Nowak led a group of white nationalist militiamen and gives him a list of members, among them several of Raya's victims. That same day, Thomas visits Amy, who now lives with Holt and barely keeps in touch with her father. Although she worries about him, she rejects his wandering lifestyle and tells him she has a boyfriend, something Thomas does not even remember. He gives her a new charm for the bracelet, but she has long since stopped wearing it. Later, Thomas meets Holt at a cafe and explains his theory. Raya is killing members of that militia using a poison from the future created by Rao, and because she moves backward through time, she appears to die and then reappear. Holt calls him crazy and refuses to help. Thomas pretends to be emotionally broken, and while hugging him, steals his badge to request information on Heather, a former militia member. When Thomas arrives at her house, she is already dead with the same wounds. Outside, Raya is waiting for him. Thomas shoots her and injures her hand, just as it had appeared years earlier in the autopsy, and he chases her in a truck to the beach where she had crashed the plane. Through a tunnel, he finds Raya's time machine, but before he can do anything, she activates it and disappears. When he comes back out, Holt and his men arrest him, convinced he has lost his sanity, while from a distance Dr. Rao watches everything in silence. In 2015, Dr. Rao finally perfects the poison Raya uses, testing it on pigs and confirming it can be activated remotely from a computer, which explains why the victims die at the same time. His lab is near the beach with the tunnel, and through the cameras he sees that Thomas is camping there, waiting for Raya's return. While he waits, Thomas receives a call from Amy, now an adult and pregnant, asking him to be there when her baby is born, even though they barely see each other. Before he can answer, Thomas is kidnapped and wakes up inside Rao's van, surrounded by dead pigs. Rao confesses that thanks to Thomas's investigation, he understood that Raya is the key to saving the world, and plans to keep him there until she completes her mission. Thomas manages to escape after a crash and returns to the beach just as Raya appears, traveling back in time for the first time. He tries to kill her to stop her mission and prevent the deaths that haunted his entire life. But Raya tells him he will not do it because she has always known him. It was he himself who once asked her to accept this task. Then she reveals the truth. Raya is his granddaughter. Amy, his daughter, married a black man, and Raya is their child. She removes the bracelet she has always worn, the same one that once belonged to Jean and then to Amy, closing the loop. Thomas is stunned and lowers his weapon. He begs her to prevent him from killing her in the past, but Raya explains that she cannot, because time travel only moves one way and the events have already happened. She asks him to go back to Amy and be present in her life while she finishes the mission. Finally, Raya tells him how it all began. When she was 9 years old, a man detonated a van filled with explosives that killed 11,000 people, a tragedy that triggered a chain of violence, leading to a civil war that destroyed the country and left millions dead. That is why Raya volunteered to travel to the past and eliminate the members of the militia responsible, using Rao's poison, activated by him in the future, in order to reset the timeline and prevent the catastrophe. In the present, Thomas arrives at the hospital just in time to see Amy give birth. Holt, relieved, celebrates that he has finally chosen his family over his obsession with the case. Thomas holds his newborn granddaughter in his arms and places the bracelet on her wrist, beginning a new cycle, Little Raya. And with this, the movie ends. Don't forget to check out my channel, subscribe, and catch all the latest videos.